Order to shout, hello, Donald, Bishop Cruisers. Right, ready to
That's
go.
a nice intro.
That is a nice intro, I'm keeping that in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Scottish Football. We're on to, what is this, 29? We're nearly at 30?
This might be 30.
This might be 30. This might be the 30th anniversary, and I'm sitting here not knowing what episode we're on.
It
might be the 30th anniversary. It might not be.
You'll know the title, to be fair.
Aye, we're back anyway. We're back. Welcome to the show today in Scottish football. Is a nice day. It's Scottish fixture squad announcement day. What do you even call it?
You were right. It is 29. Apologies.
Is it 29? See, I don't doubt myself. But it's the Scotland
squad.
That's
me not even listening to you right off the bat.
The Scotland squad's been released. The Premiership's off the back of another exciting week of games. We've got European games following this week as well. And we're no far away from being back into, of course, international duty, where we'll see Celtic go on to Scotland. Scotland go on to play some of their biggest games in years. Like, this is it.
Biggest game in like 20 years.
This is madness. Doesn't he feel it? But Steve Clarke treated the last game against Israel as what he called the dress rehearsal. If that was a dress rehearsal, God help us, because we're miles off it. But we'll see what happens when it comes to it. David, I've not even said how are you doing. It's nice to see you again. How are you doing?
Thanks, mate. Second time you've seen me today after a wee college class this morning, but Hopefully we'll enjoy this wee Zoom call a bit better. A weekend of action. We had 3 games on Saturday. We didn't stream on Saturday as we normally do, but then we both had the bright idea of streaming on Sunday again. So another 2,000 viewers on Sunday, which was great for everyone who tuned in. 3 good games on Sunday, but 3 interesting ones on Saturday as well. Certainly in terms of the bottom of the table. Should we just get straight? We'll just get stuck in, shall we? We'll go to St Mirren.
I thought you wanted to start off at Firth Park, did you?
Yeah, I did, but then the more I think about it, the more I think that St Mirren's a big talking point just now, because
all right, okay.
Well, they're in absolutely woeful form.
Aye.
And they were beat again at the weekend by Kilmarnock, who've had some revival, Alex Dyer Kilmarnock, because first 3-4 games of the season, there was a lot of Kelly fans disgruntled Alex Dyer. He's turned it round there, as I thought he would. And Big Kabamba coming up the goods again.
Kabamba we spoke about just before we came on the air, and I was talking about how they signed him from Hartlepool, a player that, probably when looking from an outside perspective anyway, you're looking at a signing like Kabamba from Hartlepool in England, a team who aren't exactly thriving, a player who's playing that low down in the English football pyramid. You're probably looking at him as a signing going, he'll be okay, won't he? He'll give them depth, he'll give them an option, but he's came into Kilmarnock and so far this season, maybe with the exception of Chris Burke, has been their standout player. He's been absolutely fantastic.
There's another Chris Burke assist as well.
Yep, I mean, he's turned out to be a brilliant signing, and that's 3 wins in the last 4 for Alex Dyer in the Premiership. They've turned it around massively. A manager who I thought, and I think I said it in one of the earlier episodes, it could have been the first managerial tragedy of the season. You flip that coin now, and it could be Jim Goodwin's position that's going to be up for grabs soon, because 5 losses on the bounce, they find themselves rock bottom. It's not gone well for them, is it?
No, it's not. And after such a bright start they had, I mean, there was all the talk. We said it last week as well, going into this weekend, about how big a game it was for them. All the talk pre-season, Tony Fitzpatrick and all the rest of them. Top 6 was the target for St Mirren, and the first 3-4 games we were thinking maybe they've got a shout actually, but they have really fallen off the wayside in recent weeks.
What do you think is actually went wrong there? Like what? So we've seen them with that bright start. Then it kind of came up to Celtic, and they challenged Celtic. They took Celtic far in the game, 2-1. And from there, it's just got worse and worse. Do you think there's a specific reason at St Mirren for that happening? Or do you think it is just typical, this is St Mirren now coming out as one of the weaker sides? We never expected them to be flying high at the start of the season. But is there anything in particular there that you see that makes you go, geez, they need to sort that?
I think, there was obviously the goalkeeper situation, which was a bit of a nightmare for them. But, I don't think Zlamal came in and did a dreadful job. He probably wasn't great against Hibs, but, against Celtic, he was fantastic. So there was that aspect to it. Yes, it would have caused some issues with the back line. They'll argue that maybe they shouldn't have been forced to play those games. But it is what it is. I think a lot of St Mirren fans are perhaps a bit disgruntled with how Jim Goodwin's used John Obika in recent weeks. He's kind of played off the left a little bit more than he were down the middle. And you think the tail end of last season when he was in good form, St Mirren were in good form, he was down the middle scoring goals. And he started the season scoring as well. So maybe just a lack of rhythm maybe in the final third. But there's a lot of teams in the same boat who will drop points, that will go through spells. If we saw it with Motherwell, I think when we come on to a couple of the other Saturday games, there's a couple of other teams in a similar boat to Aaron, but they've got Aberdeen on Friday night, I think. It's definitely this weekend at Pittodrie. I mean, there's not many tougher fixtures in the league outside the Old Firm just now, apart from Aberdeen, so he's got to get something sorted soon.
I know, and it doesn't seem like Aberdeen's going to be the game he does it in. Look, St Mirren's a team who I enjoy watching from time to time. I've had a couple of times this season when we've been doing the live streams, been watching St Mirren, and I've been thinking to myself, they look decent and they've made good additions to the team. For me, there is nothing to pinpoint on that side just now as to a specific reason of what's going wrong. I think purely right now it's Jim Goodwin's job to sort out. I don't think it goes any higher than him. I don't think the squad are exactly to blame. They're doing what they have with the quality. I think Jim Goodwin, you've pointed out a couple of tactical inconsistencies in there that could probably turn it around if they sort that out. It's going to be long. You look at now Hamilton, Brian Rice has started gathering a bit of momentum. I think they've looked a lot better over the past few weeks. Livingston got a big win at the weekend too. If St Mirren don't turn this form around soon, they don't get 3 points on the board, they will find themselves in a position where they are chasing for a majority of the season. Because let's not be mistaken, Livingston are a team who have probably better quality than St Mirren. So they can, I don't know if you'd agree, but I think they've got better quality than St Mirren. So if they were to take a substantial lead over them, I think it would take a bit of chasing from St Mirren to get back in there. And that's, if we've learned anything from last season, chasing isn't the best position to be in, because you'll end up being down.
Yeah, absolutely.
How is it Wagner put it again? Down, Dundee. What a chant, man. What a chant.
But it comes back to what I said about there being a number of different teams in that spot. You mentioned Livy. It's a nice wee segue into their win on Saturday against St Johnstone. Big win, but I mean, ultimately though, it was a massive win, not just in terms of pulling away, but they didn't really pull away. They just managed to stay off the bottom, really. And again, they beat St Johnstone, who are another one of those teams that could easily go down this year. I think there's 4 or 5 that could realistically finish bottom of the league at the moment. I think it's very hard to call who'll go down. I think most people would probably say Hamilton, just because people always do. But as you said yourself, they've put on a couple of results recently. But I mean, for Livy though, good for Alan Forrest to get a goal. He absolutely needed that.
Off the mark.
Not had the brightest of starts. Been a bit of a slow start from him. I think a lot of people expecting a lot of him. I certainly saw quite a bit from the Championship last year and thought he'd do a really good job this year. So the more he settles into the team, I think the more goals will come. But yeah, Callum Davidson. I mean, you said it right from the start. You thought he'd struggle this year, and it certainly seems to be the case so far.
Look, Livingston, massive for them. We spoke about it last week. A question I want to pose to you on the Livingston side of things before I touch on St Johnstone myself. Do you think that they will do anything in the transfer window before it shuts next week? Because they've still not quite replaced Lyndon Dykes. Of course, Stokes has came and gone. So do you think Livingston will do anything? Do you think they should do anything? Or do you think Gary Holt is satisfied with the players he's got in front of him? For me, it's bizarre that they've not went for somebody else yet, considering what happened with Stokes.
I think players will, all clubs, in Scotland are definitely going to be looking out for a couple more deals, and that can just kind of boost the squad, make that a little bit of difference. But Livy, yeah, you're right, they need to get a striker in. Forrest, I think will score quite a few goals this season, and now hopefully he'll get a bit of form off the back of that, and we'll see that. But yeah, they'll definitely be looking to bring in 1 or 2, you'd have thought. And there'll be a few clubs in the same boat. Obviously, we saw St Johnstone themselves recently get Craig Bryson in as well. But I'm sure if you offered Callum Davidson another player, they'd take it, as would most at the bottom half. But Callum Davidson really needs to get a stranglehold of that team and get some results going, because it's not looking too great at the moment.
Livingston, I want to just add in very quickly, what did you make of that news coming out? Marvin Bartley, Effie Ambrose and Gary Maley. Now the management team at the reserve squad, certainly a unique take on players' roles at their clubs. I never thought I'd see the day where Effie Ambrose would be on the touchline as a manager. This is unbelievable. I'm truly baffled. And honestly, I could see him lifting the European Cup with Celtic in 10 years' time.
I'm not too sure about that, mate. But, big Marvin Bartley, he seems to be a likeable figure. I've spoken about him loads on here. I love Marvin Bartley, but he's always he seems to be quite clear in forging a career in football after he retires. Obviously at a senior age now in terms of a playing point. He's done a lot of media work. He's now doing the coaching. If you follow him on Instagram, it's really good because he does a lot of sort of insights of his coaching he's done with the young players. So listen, I like that clubs are going to give their players chances to stay in the game. You know, we often say that there's a lack of loyalty in football, so clubs giving their players a chance to coach is definitely a good thing, and I think he'll do a decent job.
We usually save these for the live shows. I come out with my off the cuff questions, and I put you on the spot, and I want you to say something. Here's one for you right now, right? As I can see you scrambling your brains already, think, what the name of the Lord's he going to ask me? If you could pick one player in the world of football right now, maybe try and keep it Scottish football orientated. If you don't want to, you don't want to. That could become your own personal coach or personal trainer to push you on. Who are you taking? This is topical. I like this. You know, it's off the back.
See, when you ask these questions, it means you've normally got an idea of your own in your head.
I think for me, there's a good few options out there. I think that I would just want somebody that's going to. Do you know who's?
Is it like a personal trainer, or is it like a coach of a football team I was in?
Well, we'll go for like your own Mallaig FC up north. Who do you want to be coaching you in the world of a player right now? I tell you who I'd be wanting. Raja Nainggolan.
Why?
He smokes 20 a day.
Does he? Okay,
so there we go. If I'm getting away with that, he's my pick.
Got a bit about him too. I don't know. Who'd be a good coach? Paul Slane in for the coaching. He'd be decent.
Paul Slane.
Yeah. I mean, Neil Warnock could be a shout. Get him in. He'd get the boys going.
No, I mean, the question was current player, but I'll let you away with him anyway. I'll give you time to think about it. You know what? We'll come back to you at the end of the show. We'll move on to the other game that was played on Saturday. A draw. Hamilton Dundee United. I mean, do you know, you could say that very wrong. I could start with Dundee and move on to Hamilton, and we know where it goes from there. So we'll leave that out the road. Lawrence Shanklin picking up another goal. That's 2-2 since returning from injury now. He's also back in the Scotland squad, which we're going to come on to later. But Shanklin, is this it now? Is this it actually happening? Are we going to see Shanklin on top form? I know it was a disappointing result for Dundee United, all considering taking the lead in the game. And Shanklin obviously being back, you know, you'd expect 3 points when they go up 1-0. But for Shanklin himself, and he's the talking point here, isn't he?
I gave a bold claim on the live stream the week before last saying he'd be top scorer, and he's going to score again this weekend. So we'll see. But it's typical Lawrence Shanklin. He is an absolute goal machine in the box. He's outstanding, great finisher. And yeah, I mean, apart from him, Dundee United maybe have not been doing great recently. Mickey Mellon started the season looking bright, but there's the typical inconsistencies you get with a team that's newly promoted in terms of adapting to the league and a step up in quality with the opposition. So, listen, we're delighted to have Shanklin back scoring, but I think that they would have liked to have won that game, and to concede the goal relatively late on, they'll be a bit disappointed. But for Hamilton, another typical Hamilton result. They just grind out a point from somewhere.
It's really promising for Hamilton in my point of view. I look at it as a result where, Brian Rice, it's always, I mean, we know what the story is with Hamilton. We don't need to rehash it every single week and talk about how, they sit down there and then they get these points and blah, blah, blah. But these results against teams like Dundee United, they're few and far between. Dundee United are going to be a solid team this year. They're going to finish, for me, around 6th or 7th place. Hamilton throw away points to those teams all the time. They get nothing. Absolutely nothing. And they rely on beating the teams who are just beside them, your 11th place, your 10th place teams. Dundee United, a point off them is solid, considering that they are wanting to kick on from what was a bad run of form earlier a couple of weeks ago in the season. So, for Hamilton, for Brian Rice, very positive. And for Dundee United, I guess it's just a lesson of, let's kill these games. Let's be more creative. Let's move forward and get more than the one goal. Because, yes, it's all well and good Shanklin scoring another goal, adding his own personal tally. He'll be delighted with that. But at the end of the day, he probably cares more about the 3 points. And they need to take their chances for that. And they've got the players to do it. You've got Nicky Clark, you've got Lawrence Shanklin, you've got Jamie Robson, you've got all these players around the park who can create chances, make goals. And against a side who is a lot less talented than them. So that sounds harsh. That sounds harsh. But
it's true, and that's what we said. It is typical Hamilton. They don't always play the most attractive football, but they find these results when perhaps you'd not expect them to. And they're still down the bottom in terms of the table at the moment, but that's exactly where we'd expect them to be. Good thing for them is they're very much competing with the ones around them rather than being cut adrift. So the sides it'll be another long slog for Hamilton, but survival is definitely not beyond them.
Right, on to the Sunday games. We'll move on to the main events, the main card, the beefy bit. You know, that's just a very interesting Sunday. Of course, we were live for two of these games. You had Ross County and Aberdeen. So do you know what? We'll start there before we come on to the two Glasgow sides. We are also very quickly approaching the derby. That's going to be interesting in this channel. We've never actually been on the channel together.
Oh, wow, yeah, because the last pre-lockdown video we recorded that never got released was
never released. That was brilliant and all. What a show that was. I think we might need to whip out. Oh, we can't because they're on the college computers, aren't they? It's going to say we might have to whip out, listen back to what we said, see maybe give a preview on Twitter to what we were actually predicting moving into that game. But sadly, that's impossible to do so. But Ross County Aberdeen, Derek McInnes picks up after a massive loss to Motherwell last week. You were watching. What do you make of it?
They were amazing. I thought Aberdeen so comfortable. First, I mean, you heard me on stream. First 10 minutes, they could have been 3-4 up easy. Mm-hmm. Johnny Hayes running the show down the left.
As usual.
Fluidity of the attacking players. Hedges right, Watkins, McGinn, Hayes. So fluid in attack, making space, getting crosses in, shots. The woodwork saved County on a couple of occasions. And Ross County were just completely overwhelmed by Aberdeen, certainly in the opening 20 minutes, half hour. They had a wee spell in the first half where they got into it, but it was never going to be anyone else but Aberdeen's game. And Marley Watkins with his first goal just before half time really set the tone for the rest of the game. I think it was vitally important that they got the goal after all the chances. And the second half, Ross County started okay, but they go down to 10 men. Ian Vigors penalised for a last man challenge on Ferguson. Was it on Ferguson? It might have been on Watkins. Anyway, Lewis Ferguson scored 2 from the spot, clinical, 2 really good penalties, and a comfortable, routine, 3-0 victory for Aberdeen, and it's exactly what they needed after last weekend.
The most interesting thing to me after that result at the weekend, and of course following the Celtic win as well, Aberdeen now 4th in the table, 2 points behind Hibs with 2 games in hand. That is massive. After a lot of people wrote off McInnes even after 1 game. So,
well, about 2-3 weeks ago, I changed my shout for third to Aberdeen.
Yeah, that's literally what I was going to come on to, Mr. Buick. I'm going to ask you this every single week. I mean, every week we talk about Aberdeen, I'm going to ask you the same question because I'm still on the Hibs bandwagon for third. You're in the Aberdeen bandwagon. Are Aberdeen still going to be the third place side this season?
I think so. My main thing I've got with Aberdeen is, well, one, it's the experience and know-how of doing it before and always been thereabouts. But I think they've really adapted and developed this year. They've gone again. They've changed up their style of play a little bit. And I think if you ask a lot of Aberdeen fans, their main frustration with Derek McInnes is sometimes the football's a bit boring. Sometimes they're not as free-flowing as they'd like. They tend to win 1-0 a lot. They don't really play exciting football. This year, that seems to have changed. Ryan Hedges has been great. Scott Wright, who has shown flashes in the past 2-3 years, but never really got a consistent run in the starting lineup. He's in there as well. So you've got those 2 really creative players, as well as McGinn and Hayes, who we know have got a creative side also. So, yep. And also you look at that midfield, and Lewis Ferguson and Ross McCrory are fantastic. Two of the best
young Scottish midfielders. Where I wanted to come on to next was, for me, with the way Aberdeen have been playing, the way their players have been playing, I'm kind of stunned that Steve Clarke has left out Ross McCrory in the Scotland side. I think he could have got in there.
One thing is, though, with McCrory is that Scotland has got so many great.
Yeah, I know that's the thing. Who gets dropped for that? Who gets dropped for the likes of McCrory coming in? I suppose. But for me, I don't know if it's a controversial thing. I'd take him over Kenny McLean.
I would probably agree with you. But you look at the form of McCrory, Lewis Ferguson, Alan Campbell from Motherwell. If those 3 guys were centre backs, they would probably be in the squad. It's just because of the congestion we've got in midfield. But you're right. I mean, he has been great. The one issue I think Aberdeen are going to have is at the back now. I mean, for all Scott McKenna gets a little bit of criticism, he was definitely Aberdeen's best centre-back. And a lot of their fans aren't convinced on Ash Taylor, so we'll see how that goes. But certainly from midfield and attack, they're looking very good.
Well, lovely stuff. We'll move on to the game I covered because I guess the game we've not spoke about a lot on the channel because we didn't cover it live. Was Rangers Motherwell. So we'll save that for last. We'll come on to Celtic and of course Hibs in the game, which was predicted to be a lot closer than it actually was, and myself, as was many Celtic fans, very nervous going into this game. You were very vocal, of course, on Celtic and their performances prior to this game. Celtic going in and absolutely trouncing them, and for me, the thing that I picked up the most from it, the thing that I thought was unbelievably good and just pleasant to watch was That was the Celtic of the last 4 years. That was that performance. Everything that we've seen from the day Brendan Rodgers walked through the door at Celtic Park to the day he left Celtic Park to winning a treble twice, a treble under Lennon and then perhaps another treble under Lennon last year, all of that, those 4 years of football, that was that, yes. That was that in the weekend. That was that sort of performance. That was the invincible Celtic, the double treble Celtic, the treble Celtic. It was pleasant viewing. And there's a real... The thing that I love the most is the confidence for the derby that's coming up in a couple of weeks' time now has went from what was mid-par to decent. You know, I'm feeling good going at this game now. Of course, still going to be difficult. We'll come on to that when it comes. But Celtic absolutely walking over Hibs at the weekend,
Yeah, but I don't think Hibs were at it, and I think they had a couple of chances in the first half that it could have easily been a bit more of a tricky afternoon for Celtic. Listen, Hibs were. I don't think it was easy for Celtic. They definitely played well, and it was definitely an improvement. I think the big talking point for me, from a Celtic point of view, is Scott Brown. I mean, I've certainly slagged Scott Brown. Well, maybe not slagged Scott Brown. Slagged the playing him all the time. Sunday was one of those games that he does play for me. A game against a decent side. We were strong in the middle. You need to get a foothold in the game, set the tempo, get the boys going. It's exactly where you want Scott Brown in those type of games. And for me, it's no surprise that that's the game he's thrived in this season. It was a really good performance. Ayeti again with another goal, just clinical, isn't he? He's absolutely clinical.
Oh, and it's a shame because now he's out for a few weeks, and you're looking at a player that will potentially miss the derby.
It brings us on to the Odsonne Edouard thing though, because obviously he doesn't start. Some rumours of transfer movement. I don't really see it myself. We covered it last week, but he's clearly not fit. And I think that was not just shown by the fact he didn't start, but when he did come on, I don't think he was at it yet again.
Nah, he wasn't. I wouldn't say he was exactly bad, but he wasn't himself. He's not the player that we all know and love. Well, no, you. I'm sure you've not got that much of an allegiance to him, but he's not a player Celtic fans have come to love over the past couple of years. Up front, it's scarce at the minute, and now with Ayeti going out, it begs the question: how soon do we now see Lee Griffiths get back into this Celtic squad? He was involved on the bench. And he'll be, not in a vindictive way, not in a negative way by any means, but seeing Ayeti going off injured, Lee Griffiths must have been thinking in his head, class, this suits me. This gives me an opportunity.
But then again, I'm not entirely convinced that Griffiths is motivated.
I know we spoke about that on the podcast. It was, I'll upload it on my channel as well. We spoke about that live at the weekend. I don't think that Neil Lennon is going to be, jumping at the first opportunity to get Griffiths back on that park, but you can't deny that there is certainly an aspect there with Ayeti being injured and Edouard not being quite fit yet. There is an aspect of Griffiths could get back in this team sooner than previously planned.
I'm assuming Edouard's going away with the French 21s again, is he?
I imagine he will be. I don't see why he wouldn't, considering they scored 2 goals in their previous trip.
So, it's not ideal for Celtic. You'd have thought Celtic would want to keep him, because if he's not fit enough to play for Celtic just now, he's going to get a little bit of rest to then go and exert himself with 2, internationals before a massive game when he comes back. So it's not an ideal situation. I look at Griffiths though. I don't think it matters whether Ayeti's not there, because he's clearly not got the motivation and determination to get in that side. Because regardless of injuries, he has the ability to be in that starting 11, and he's not using it just now. For one reason or another, he's not showing the commitment and dedication to get in that team. Regardless of any injury, he would be in and around that starting 11, and he's nowhere near just now.
You make a very valid point. From the outside, I'm sure there'll be people who agree with you. I know there'll be Celtic fans listening, and there'll be, well, not so much Celtic fans, but Griffiths fans listening who'll be saying to themselves, shut up. But you're spot on. You're definitely right. There is a reason he's not been in that squad since, when was the last time he played? Hibs in the friendly. There's a reason he's not been involved since. And it is not just fitness and injury issues. He's had one too many chances given, and he's thrown them away. And seeing him on the bench, it looks to be positive. It looks to show that he's getting somewhere. I do still believe. I stick to what I said earlier, and I think this will help him get back into the squad quicker. But you've also, an aspect of what you're saying is correct, and I think Lennon won't be jumping at that opportunity. Look, why would you erase the progress that you've made with Patrick Klimala? Why would you suddenly chip him to the side? Why would you do that to somebody after Griffiths being the person he's been for the past few months? So,
especially when you look at the midfield and attacking midfielders as well, he's got to get El Yunusi and Christie in that team as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, we talked about Griffiths coming back. Tom Rogic is trying to get back in that team also. So, I mean, There's another guy with
and a question, I
amazing ability.
suppose, a question to pose to Celtic fans is, and I'm sure the answer 9 times out of 10 is going to be Rogic. Is like, if you had to choose between one of those two to get back in the team and kickstart their Celtic career back up, who are you giving it to? Are you giving it to Rogic? Are you giving it to Griffiths? And I think any reasonable Celtic fan would be giving it to Tom Rogic. I don't see why not, because he's done nothing wrong, and there's been nothing to suggest that his Celtic career should be over. Now, Griffiths, I like Griffiths, and I don't. The thing is, I'm always there's this agenda that gets created that if you don't want Griffiths in the starting 11, you automatically despise him and you want him to have nothing to do with Celtic. That's not the case. I like Lee Griffiths. I think he's been a great servant for Celtic. He's a centurion. He's scored 100 goals. He's been brilliant. He's been absolutely brilliant. But there definitely has to come an aspect of how much patience can you have with one player. And you look at other players who deserve a chance. I would love Lee Griffiths to be back scoring 30 goals a season. But what do you do to sacrifice other players for that? I think there's lines that shouldn't be crossed. I don't know. It's a very weird one. And I guess only time will tell what decision proves right for Neil Lennon and Celtic, if he comes in the team or not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a tough situation to predict because you just never know Willie Griffiths. But one thing I want to touch about in terms of Celtic at the weekend, one player who's been banging form recently, and has had to be because he's kind of carried that midfield and attack, is Cal Mcgregor. He's been flying recently.
What a hero, eh?
Goals as well, and also at a perfect time for Scotland as well. He's hitting some real good form just now.
Aye, yes. He'll be important for Scotland in the next couple of weeks. Like we spoke about a moment ago when I said McCrory might deserve a call up for Scotland, how good our centre mids are. And you look at McGinn, you look at McTominay, you look at Ryan Jack, you look at Cal McGregor, you look at Stuart Armstrong, Ryan Christie. You've got all these players in the middle of the park who are top class. But Callum McGregor is constantly just the guy that Celtic can turn to for a spark of creativity. And he's been great recently, getting another goal at the weekend. You know, I think now under this system, Neil Lennon has figured out his role and he's deployed him correctly. I think in that 4-2-3-1, he was far too defensive. He was suffocating a lot of his attacking threat. But now he's looked good. I think that's the advantage of playing him and Cham and Brown. You know, and Cham and McGregor can always alternate between who's the one advancing forward at the park, and then the other one can do a job beside Brown too. So, it's great. McGregor deserves a bit of praise, and you're spot on for calling him out.
Yeah. On the final game, the one we didn't cover, Rangers were in action.
Yep.
Tell you what, though, see going into this Rangers game, I thought it'd be a tough afternoon for Rangers, to be honest.
It was weird, wasn't it?
Picked up recently, and then all of a sudden they completely blitzed them.
Conspiracy theories, Conspiracy theories. Mother Ulster had about 5 penalties in the game.
The big talking point was the handballs, obviously the penalties for Rangers.
Oh, God,
Rangers' first penalty in the league in a calendar year, which was an amazing stat.
Shocking, absolutely shocking. I feel like every week you see penalty at Rangers on Twitter, but obviously it's just came to that point where it's stained you in the mind. You just think you're seeing it.
It goes back to that game against St Mirren, like a year or two ago. They had like 4 in one game or something, which was wild. But no, listen, it's been the debate that's been, all over British football for the past week, if not longer. It's the handball rule, it's the interpretation, it's the referees, it's VAR. Thankfully, we don't have VAR to worry about. But Bobby Madden, I think it's for me.
Don't worry, we don't have VAR to worry about. But Bobby Madden, don't have to worry about.
Bobby Madden made the right decision on both times. I think that's the sad reality of it, is that letter of the law, he was right, which is just it's becoming more and more that you see the rules that are designed for the game that get changed now, and it just seems to me like they come up with people they're made by people who don't play and haven't played the game.
Yeah,
it's what it seems like, because the whole aspect of, and this idea that if you're a defender in your box now, unless your arms are by your side, you're getting penalised. Now, when the rule was just natural position, to have your arms beside your body when you're standing in the box defending is an unnatural position. But it is now the only way in which you won't be penalised for a handball, regardless. If the ball,
who defends like that? When have you been brought up? And I'm not. Look at me. Just take a long, hard look at me. And for people listening to Spotify, take a long, hard listen to me. I have no idea what I'm on about. But when you're getting brought up as a young guy and you're playing football, you don't get taught to defend that in mannequin. That's not how it goes.
It's not even to do with defending. It's just biology and your body and how you you got to be balanced. You got to use your arms. If you're say Ryan Kent standing you up, he's about to run at you. You can't stand still like a mannequin. You need to be able to move. You need your arms.
Of course, you play a lot more football than me. You play for a team and everything, not you. Played. Your days over, aye. Retired for the game at 20 or 21. Oh dear. No, but look, you've played a lot more football than me. You know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to this. But you're right. If somebody like Ryan Kent's running towards you, what sort of where are you going? What's happening? What defensively? What are you achieving by standing? This. What are you achieving?
I mean, the thing is, they're so harsh. These decisions. The second one especially. Well, actually both of them, because the defender sees the ball so late because they're injured. I think Arfield ducks for the first one, and the second one's the corner that comes in that hits Grimshaw. If that ball doesn't hit Grimshaw's hand, it hits his chest. So for me, I don't understand how that even. It's not even like he's interfered with play because of his hand. Really, it's just so frustrating. If you're Steven Gerrard, you got to be happy because your team's got penalty kicks. You're Bobby Madden. I feel for him because we've seen Bobby Madden do lots of media work. Seems like a decent guy. Seems like he likes his football. He'll not be happy with that, as a lot of the referees won't be, because it's just not right.
And of course, it's been a weekend that has been absolutely littered with complaints on rules. And you see Roy Hodgson, or should I say Roy Hodgson, coming out and speaking on it. You've got Steve Bruce, who was even against the decision made for his own team. He was against the decision made for his own team. You see Mourinho, who was clearly unhappy. He sprinted down that tunnel. He wanted nothing to do with the referees. It's slowly and slowly killing the game, and it's annoying. And Roy Hodgson was spot on with it. Surely will, and if it doesn't, you've got to question what's happening at the top of the game. You've got to question where the intentions are. But look, for me, Roy Hodgson said it perfectly. Like it's how we've allowed this to come into fashion is unacceptable, and it is killing love of the games for everybody, for coaches and for players and for fans. And if no one at the top of the game or the respected authorities who make these decisions realise that and listen to anything that's been said and make no changes, it's criminal. And I don't get it. But we're fortunate enough in Scotland to be in the position.
It all comes back to an absolute desire for football to be perfect and for it to be as good as it can be. And absolutely, this is the way it's done. There's no mistakes. It's absolutely fine. And that, for me, is just as a principle, and it's why I would never want to be in Scotland anyway, regardless.
It's completely
wrong, because it should come down to me to human error. It does for the players on the pitch. It does for the officials. And the best thing, and my anti-VAR argument I always make is, from the reason football is the most popular sport in the world is from right at the grassroots. If you've got a ball in the street, you can play exactly the same game with the same rules as the players at the top of world football. And that, to me, is why it's so good. It's because it's the same the whole way down. And the more you try and change it at the top, the more issues you're going to have. Yes, listen, throughout history, we've had massive referee mistakes that have cost things, have cost games, have cost all the rest of it. I genuinely believe it swings and roundabouts, and in the large parts, referees, listen, they will hamper all teams at various points throughout seasons and all the rest of it. The more you try and sanitise the game and make it almost robotic, I think you're just going to kill it. Especially, and it's why we love Scottish football, is it's still got that pure sort of element to the game that they're losing down south.
I've been, if anybody knows me, they'll know that I have been anti-VAR for the minute it was introduced. I've never enjoyed the idea of it, never mind the implementation of it in football. It's just, for me, completely took away a natural element from the game, which made it enjoyable, lovable. But look, listen, Graham Potter came out in December of 2019, and his exact quote was, and I've loved this quote, I've never forgot this quote ever since I've seen it, because he was the first kind of manager who came out and spoke about VAR in the fashion that he did. And he was saying, look, we bring it in to make these correct decisions, everything to be consistent and to be right. Football, historically, has been a game of mistakes, played by human beings that get things wrong. We all get things wrong in life. And it's made the game what it is today. Where would we be without Maradona's hand of God goal? Where would we be without all these moments? And of course, you get the people who are on the side that are affected going, oh, jeez, oh, dear me, oh, dear me, oh, dear. Imagine what we could have done there. We could have changed that and it could have been great. No, for me, football has shaped out to be the sport it is because of what
I think a lot of it comes down to money as well. I mean, there's so much money, especially in the game down south and in European competition, that there's too much at stake financially, and that is why these things have happened. But I'll listen on to Rangers, because I think a lot of the media coverage of that game on Sunday has been a bit unfair on Gerrard's team because I thought they were very, very good for the large part. Really like Scott Arfield's performance. I really like what he adds to the Rangers midfield. There's a bit more direct running, the sort of determination to get up and support the forward players. He does that really, really well. Morelos is a nuisance again. Kent looked lively. Jordan Jones, I think, is probably the big one to talk about from the starting lineup. I think a lot of Rangers fans are probably surprised to see him included. And he definitely took his chance. It was a great goal he scored, and Gerrard came out post-match and said he'll be a big help for Rangers now. So another option for them, and he definitely did well.
Jordan Jones is someone who I've had, people say to me before in the past, what do you think of him? Do you think Rangers will keep him? Stuff like that. I think he's a good player. Just not really had his chance, done brilliant at the weekend. Look, Rangers all round once again with a very dominant performance, a performance that is right now the calibre of a team who can go and win this league. Ultimately, the derby is going to be what sets the teams apart. That's going to really show who's at what stage. Can Rangers hold on to Kent for another week? Bielsa was talked on about maybe going back for him. Yes, I think they will keep Kent. I think he will stay at Rangers. I don't think there's any hope in hell that Gerrard will let him go. Will they improve? Probably no sign. Everybody else should try and keep a hold of Morelos as well. It's a big week. We've seen things happen in the past in transfer windows in the last week or so, in deadline days that we've never expected. If Rangers keep that squad together right now, they're showing no sign of stopping. Of course, they did drop points to Hibs. We've seen that. We're not going to just ignore it as if it never happened. But performance-wise, Rangers have been another level this year, and Ryan Kent right now on form is the best player in Scotland. So it's not better than a dwarf. Let's just calm down. But on form, he is. So it's a very interesting time for the two teams at the top of the table.
Yeah, and finally, just the last thing I want to cover in that game, Cedric Itten off the bench gets his 2 goals, first 2 for Rangers. I think it's a massive moment for him personally because I think there's a few question marks. Obviously, we've seen lots of Kemar Roof so far. He's looked bright. Cedric Itten, not so much. He started the first game. I think I can't remember exactly who it was against, but he might have been Kilmarnock. He started, and he didn't do an awful lot. And since then, his cameo's off the bench. He's not been great. Gerrard hasn't seemed to want to chuck him in yet, but for him, vitally important. He got the 2 goals, and that will really help Bruce Rangers' striking, prospects going forward.
Fantastic. That's it then,
Championship. Let's talk championship.
Championship. It's been a long time since we've been
about a week or 2 away from really getting to talk about the lower leagues, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you what? Because you're so excited, kick us off, Daveson. This is your speciality, you could say.
We were obviously going to cover Andy Halliday, but we'll leave him a second or two because I've just seen announced Jonathan Afolabi has joined Dundee on loan for the season from Celtic. So that's an interesting signing. It's been rumoured recently. Obviously, he was at Dunfermline from January last year. A lot of the rumours were we take him back, but he's gone to Dundee. It's a strange one. I mean, he did okay for Dunfermline. For Dundee, I think with a run of games, you'll be okay. But they've tried to boost their striking ranks recently. But obviously, the big one's Andy Halliday. Bit of a disaster if he's leaving open goal, it has to be said, because he's done some great work there.
I know he has.
A big signing for Hearts. The only thing I will say, though, is their midfield's absolutely stacked now. I mean, there's no way in my mind Hearts aren't going to scoosh that league next year. They will absolutely scoosh the Championship, I think. Their squad's so good. They've got so many Premiership players in there. The staunchometer's gone off the fucking charts with Naismith and Halliday in there. But he'll be a good signing, and I think, Robbie Nielsen's team are destined to come straight back up.
Still not quite the Pals, though. I think, yeah. I think your team.
Listen, I'll take the playoffs, mate. I'll take the playoffs.
Look, if you can get up to the playoff, up through the playoffs this year, it would still be obviously a remarkable achievement. I'm sure it would.
I think the big thing for Hearts is that we always knew that the quality of some of those players that got relegated, they were still good enough. They just lacked direction. They lacked ideas. They were so. Daniel Stendhal wanted to play a certain way. They just couldn't do. Robbie Nielsen's got out that league twice before. Once with Hearts. I think with the squad of players there. In the pre-season, they started really well. Liam Boyce will score goals for fun. And I think
it's mad this. So if you ever said 10 years ago that would have. So when was Andy Halliday at? Who was it he played for? Was it Hull? When was he at Hull? Bradford. Sorry, Bradford. So when was he at Bradford? That was like 2015 or something. 2014.
2014, 15, something like that.
If you said to me in 2014 that we'd be looking at Andy Halliday, Charlie Adam, Stephen Naismith, all these players playing.
Graham
Dorrans playing in the Championship. At this point,
Stephen Whittaker.
Oh, Stephen Whittaker, I know, aye, that's right. You're like, never in a million years would I believe you. And you know what? A lot of people might say these are players going for the easy options to end their careers and all the rest of it. Look, the Scottish Championship level has picked up big time the last 2 years. It's been great watching down there.
In the last 10 years, it's picked up big time. I mean, this is the second time Hearts have been in the Championship. We had Hibs in there for 3 seasons, Dundee United for
Rangers,
4 or 5, Rangers for 2. Falkirk in that time have been really good. Raith Rovers have been decent.
It's such a competitive pyramid of football that Scotland now have. And that's the truth. Yeah. And of course, the media down south will never let you believe that, but that is the case. We've seen the everywhere from League Two. You see the likes of Cove Rangers, the way they've came up and everything. These teams are all getting better. And
if you were to build a Championship 11 just now, the best Championship players, you'd get a top 6 Premiership team.
I think you would as well. And look, ultimately, it's a shame that we have found ourselves now in the situation worldwide that we have with everything that's going on, that is hurting these teams financially, because we have got to that point where everything is so good and then all of a sudden we can't enjoy it.
But a lot of this is, you talk about players maybe taking the easy option. A lot of them, I think, would have just taken Championship contracts just out of security because, instead of waiting around for a Premiership move that didn't come. I think the great example of this is Stephen O'Donnell. He was waiting for the big move all summer. Didn't get it. Ended up, at Motherwell. And with the start he's made, I'm not convinced there will be another big move for him after this. But listen, I can't wait for Betfred Cup starts next week. That's going to be great. Can't wait to do some content for that. But Halliday will be, a big signing for Hearts. Versatile as well, which is obviously good.
Well, you know what? Exciting times. We move on. We go forward. We come on to the big topic of today, of course, and something that we're going to be speaking about more in depth tomorrow on the channel, or sometime over the next 2 days anyway. Not too sure when we're going to upload yet, but big news coming out, of course, that the Scotland team has been announced, and this is, as we mentioned at the start of the video, potentially Scotland's biggest game in over 20 years. This is huge. Has Steve Clarke got it right? David, you love your international football. You love watching Scotland. I don't quite love you. I'm still got to get that.
Loving watching Scotland just now is a bit of a stretch, but
I've got to get that kindling fire back that I've never seen in my life. What was your first impressions? Are you happy with the squad that Steve Clarke has decided to take forward against Israel?
I don't think I had an awful lot of options. Kevin Nisbet should be in the squad. I mean, listen, everyone's going to say I'm saying that because of, my love for Kevin Nisbet, but he absolutely should be in that squad for me. I don't understand why Callum Patterson's in there. I just don't understand it. Ollie Barker, as much as I don't like him, at least I kind of see some sort of logic to that. Interestingly, though, looking at the squad here, Scott McTominay listed as a midfield player rather than a defender, which I hope suggests that he won't be playing centre back again. The big call, Ryan Fraser been back. That's the big positive from this. It was absolutely key that Ryan Fraser gets back, especially with James Forrest being out of the squad. Ryan Fraser being in is massive. And he's got some game time in Newcastle. He's already scored. If he can get another game or two before the games, then he has to start for me. Ryan Porteous rewarded for his recent form. He comes in. An interesting call. I like to see what him and Ryan Jack and John McLaughlin get up to pre-game before the Israel game. Any chance there between those three? But, looking at the team, no real surprises. I would like to have seen this, but if I'm honest, Shanklin fit is a good thing. We'll see how McBarney does. He's not had a great start to the Premiership season, so I don't know. I mean, Dykes obviously is there. I just feel a little bit deflated looking at it because for all I didn't expect anything else, it's just there's not an awful lot that excites me, which is strange because you've got some really good players in there. Obviously, John McGinn, amazing last night.
John McGinn, what? Look, he's got to get sell a £50 million move somewhere. Honestly, what a player. He keeps us up all season. Form like that last night, he will not be Aston Villa next year. No chance. He'll be off. He'll be away. Maybe 50 million's a bit of a stretch, but you're talking about Premier League to Premier League club. People will pay money for him. It's crazy. The game's gone in terms of money. Look, for me, the Scotland lineup or the Scotland squad is exactly what I expected. There's nothing there that stuns me at all. It's good, as you said, Fraser's back. For me, I like that we're expendable in what we can do with our shape. I think that there's multiple routes that Stevie Clarke could go down now. I think we can play that 5 at the back if we want. We can play 4 at the back. I think you've got a good situation now where, you've got Ryan Fraser who can play on the left. if you want, I think he could move up front with somebody and play off the side of Lyndon Dykes. It makes it quite, and that's where I want to. We'll come on to that in the video. I don't want to go into that too much when we do our own specific video on it. A lot of people complain about Ollie Burke, of course. One thing I've seen on Twitter there, and I just want to bring up, I've been sitting having a wee debate during this podcast with a good friend of my own on Twitter, saying that he brought up a tweet saying it is absolutely criminal the amount of players, the amount of strikers that Ollie Burke gets in that Scotland squad ahead of. So who else gets in ahead of Ollie Burke right now?
Nisbet does.
That was the exact thing I said. Sorry, I said what my exact reply was. Apart from Kevin Nisbet, who? Because he said the amount of, and the three names I got.
I would take a chance on a league reference who isn't playing over.
No, you would not. You wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. In Scotland's biggest game in over 20 years, you're going to take a player.
Listen, here's but I get what you're saying. But Burke isn't going to play, so it doesn't really matter. He's not starting this game. He'll almost definitely not.
And see, for all it's worth, I watched a bit of Sheffield United last week.
Yeah, he's done okay. A good
whatever the game. I think about 50, 60 minutes of the game I caught. He looked fine. He looked good. He actually played a couple of good passes. He looked quite creative. And he looked decent. No, the extent he's got to get into my Scotland team, my starting 11.
But I think the starting 11, the starting striker is absolutely nailed on to be Lyndon Dykes. I think.
It's going to be.
If you look at how Scotland, listen, how we're going to do a video on our preferred 11 like we did last time before the game was cancelled. But if you're to do a predicted 11, I don't think it'll be an awful lot of surprise. I think he will stick with the formation that he trialled in the last two games as much as I think. It didn't work as well as he thought it would. I think that's probably what he will do, assuming there's not an injury to Tierney between now and the game. I don't know. I just don't feel as much. Listen, see in March, April time, when we were expecting this game to go ahead in June, we were both buzzing for this game. We looked at the squad, we had players in form, a lot to be positive and excited about. Griffiths was back playing. It looked like it was going to be a really, really exciting run into that game. And the way things have gone, both with just the world and internationally, there's not an awful lot to be that excited about, I don't think. So, listen, we'll see. I mean, come the night of the game, without any fans, if there was fans there, they would be rocking, there's no doubt about that, but there's not going to be. So,
the flood of Scotland would have been an emotional one.
It's about time that the Scotland squad actually get the fans going rather than the other way around. So they need to do that ahead of win the semi-final, get into the final and see what happens.
Right, Scotland's been covered. We've only got a couple more things to go through now on the show, and that includes, of course, talking a little bit about the European games coming up on Thursday as Celtic and Rangers look to go forward in the Europa League. And then to finish off, if there is any questions via the old Twitter, then we will keep in touch. We saved that a bit late today. We knew we were recording today. We just forgot to put up the tweet till very late. Before we go on any further, David, last week you took me to school. You gave me a quiz. You thought to test my knowledge on transfers, and I don't know.
A nice easy quiz, but you only got 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. It wasn't that easy. It was all right. It was not bad. I've got a quiz for you, which I have no idea the difficulty of. Very quickly, I'm going to try and fly through it. That relates to Scottish clubs in Europe. Yes, I kept it quiet.
Not my area of expertise.
It is not with Dunfermline sitting in fucking East End every week. Right. Okay. So. It's testing your knowledge of Scottish football's European calamities. Will we see a calamity this week? Will Sarajevo surprisingly knock out Celtic? Could Galatasaray take the Rangers to town? We'll talk about it in a minute. So here we go. I don't know how many questions there is, but we'll fly through it anyway. Because I think we're doing quite well just now. We're going like trains here. We're going quite fast. Right, okay. First question. It was the evening in 2005 which Gordon Strachan called out and out the worst football night I have ever had. In his first competitive game in charge, Celtic were battered by Artmedia Bratislava. But what was the score in Slovakia? Was it 3-0, 4-0 or 5-0?
3-0.
3-0, you're wrong. It was 5-0.
Was it 5-0?
5-0. 5-0. Celtic defeated them 4-0.
Still, you didn't ask me about the name of the team, to be fair.
Finished 5-4 in aggregate, mate. 5-4 in aggregate. Okay, second question. It was the game Pat Fenlon never really recovered from when Hibs were smashed by Malmo in 2013. It was the highest aggregate loss suffered by any Scottish team in Europe.
Was it 8-0?
It's either 8-0, 9-0 or 9-1. That guy in Clyde won there the time he let slip the F-bomb. 8-0,
dear, he made the top score. Well, I'm annoyed that they were so close to the options. I'm going to say 8-0.
8-0, you stick with your 8-0. It was 9-0. 9-0. So it was a 2-0 away defeat in the first leg. Looked like a
I knew they got trounced like 7 in one of the games.
7-0 at Easter Road.
Easter Road, I remember it.
Rangers suffered arguably their worst ever continental result as they went down 2-0 in aggregate to Progress Niederkorn in the Europa League in 2017. But what country were Progress Niederkorn come from? Was it A, Luxembourg, B, Slovenia, or C, Bulgaria?
Luxembourg
would be correct. Well done, son. You've got 1 out of 3 now. That's you. You're cooking the gas. Under Stuart McCall, Motherwell regularly flirted with European football. However, their last outing on the continent before this season was one to forget. 5 years ago, an Icelandic team came from 2-0 down at Fir Park to knock the Scots out in extra time. But who were they? Was it A, Vikingur, B, Stjarnan, or C, Valur? Valur is wrong. It was Stjarnan.
Those are the two names. Those are the two names that ring the bell, actually.
Stjarnan rang a bell for me. This was Aberdeen's worst European result. It came at the hands of the mighty Sigma Olomouc, who inflicted a 1-8 aggregate drubbing in 2009. But who was the Pittodrie manager at the time? Was it A, Jimmy Calderwood, B, Mark McGee, or C, Craig Brown?
Oh, what a question that is.
That's a good question, eh?
Mark McGee.
Mark McGee is correct. He was the manager at the time. Absolute disaster the night. You remember that. The season after Rangers reached the UEFA Cup final in Manchester, Walter Smith's side were knocked out of the Champions League in the second qualifying round by FBK Kaunas before the domestic season had even started. What was the aggregate score in 2008? Was it 2-0, 3-1, or 2-1?
2-1.
2-1 is correct. Kevin Thompson's goal was not enough to see Rangers go through. Brendan Rodgers won 7 trophies from 7 during his time at Celtic, but his tenure began with a humiliating defeat in his first competitive game. The Parkhead side lost to Lincoln Red Imps thanks to Lee Casario's goal. What was his day job? Was it a police officer, a doctor, or a taxi driver?
Taxi driver.
Taxi driver is wrong. It was a police officer.
Pretty sure he had a brother that also played for them. They both played for the Gibraltar national team as well.
Right, aye.
I think he might have scored against Scotland as well, actually.
Kilmarnock brought a 2-1 lead back from Wales in the last season's Europa League, but ended up the wrong side of a 3-2 aggregate defeat. Which team defeated Angelo Alessio's side? Was it
Connor
Nomads? Nomads, that's correct. I'll give you that straight away. And that's it. You got a 4 out of 8. So that
was a harder quiz I gave you last week, it has to be said.
That was quite hard, especially if your mind doesn't want to delve us back into the past.
Could have got a lot of the names and the countries that we're from, but the scorelines were a nightmare.
Aye, nightmare. So, Europe, we'll go through it very quickly because we went on quite well with your Rangers taking on Galatasaray. What are you thinking?
It's an exciting game.
I think Rangers are going to batter them.
Batter them?
Batter them. I think a 2-3-0 Rangers win.
Batter 2-0, that happens a lot. No, I think they'll probably win. Rangers in Europe, I mean, they've got the formula, haven't they? And they do it time and time again. There's one thing that if Gerrard doesn't win the league this year, there's one positive he can take from his Rangers tenure, and that's how well done in Europe. It's actually been quite remarkable.
Look, if Gerrard doesn't win the league
especially away from home.
If Gerrard doesn't win the league this year, there's one positive he can take from his time at Rangers, and that's how long he kept the fucking job. That's what I would say. But in Europe, yes, of course, I've got a winning formula. They're doing well.
Listen, if Lennon knew how to do it the way Gerrard's done it in Europe, there'd be a lot more happy Celtic fans.
Sorry, what happened with that up the wall there? Last season in Rome.
Yeah, but listen, this year in the qualifiers.
What happened in 2012 again?
But listen, I hear Celtic fans talk a lot more about last season than they do about Lazio.
Yeah. Look, Rangers, no denying, no taking away from them at all, have been absolutely fantastic, and that's why I think they'll beat Galatasaray easily this week. And look, if I was speaking honestly, they'll probably do better against Galatasaray than what we'll do against Sarajevo, which brings me nicely on to our game. I do think we'll go through. Will we struggle? Absolutely, because we hate Europe. We hate these qualifiers. We cannot play in qualifiers over 2 legs, never mind 1 leg. It's disastrous formulas for Celtic when it comes to one game. So I think we'll go through, but it's going to be horrid to watch. I know that right now.
Yeah, I don't imagine it'll be too much. So that's the thing. Celtic have often needed that comfort blanket of a second leg, which they haven't had this year, which is amps up. It's the Ferencváros game. There's no doubt in my mind Celtic would have probably won a second leg because they tend to do that. I mean, even if you look back over to Lennon's first spell, games against like Shakhtar Karagandhi and all that, they needed the second leg, and they they used it. The Red Imps one's a good example. Beersheba as well. I think they needed the second leg. So listen, they haven't got that, which is making it a little bit nervous. Maybe it's a difficulty in knowing how to approach the game, because obviously you've got to win it on the night. But if you go out and you attack from the start, you leave yourself exposed, then there comes issues with that. But both will go through, I think. And I think you're right, Celtics will be a pretty horrid watch, I thought.
And did you know that Sarajevo was a city that Franz Ferdinand was shot in to kickstart World War One?
Yeah. Did you not say that on the live stream at the weekend?
I think I did, and you didn't know, which I was surprised at. I thought that was common knowledge, to be quite honest. Clearly some of us are more educated than others.
Not interested.
Not interested. Okay, which brings us on to the final segment of the show. The 12 questions. Did we get any? Do we even know?
We got a wee smuttering.
A smuttering. Oh, a smuttering. That puts me in the mood for a piece of butter, you saying that?
So we'll kick off to and I'm really glad that Connor Carter has asked this question, because it's something I forgot to bring up when we talked about the Celtic game. Do you think David Turnbull has the potential to be a regular starter ahead of Ryan Christie?
Yes.
Well, not even potential, ability right now he's got to be a regular starter of Ryan Christie.
Well, I'm not see, when you say it, yes, it kind of makes people think that you assume Ryan Christie has no ability, and that he's lost all ability, and that he's just absolute dog meat. I'm not saying that. What I'm more saying is David Turnbull deserves a shot ahead of him right now. I think Christie has been wasteful. I think he's been good at times, but inconsistent throughout 90 minutes of a game. And David Turnbull came on, played 45 at the weekend, and throughout the whole 45 it was great. So for me, yep, Turnbull should be in the team ahead of Christie right now.
Callum O'Rourke, who always asks the question, Callum with a really good question here.
Good man.
Right, let's play Ollie McBurney squad, leaving the squad bingo, right? I'm going to go with the 6th of October. That's when he'll pull out. When do you think he's going to pull out?
It's a good one. I am going to go for the 30th of September.
Oh, God, yeah. He's pulling out in the morning.
Pulling out the morning.
And also, Callum asks a really good question. It's something I've not thought about. It's going to depend on whether or not you're working. But there's 4 Premiership games on Friday night. Are we going live?
Ooh. We'll need to see if I'm at that pub or not.
Yeah.
We
should just do it to keep you out of the pub.
I know, it probably has a shout, to be honest. It probably has a shout.
It is a decent shout. I forgot that this had been something that Clark, I think Steve Clark had asked for this, to have the games pulled forward to give him an extra couple of days of the squad. But the Celtic in Europe and Rangers in Europe, it's not making a grand deal of difference. But it's something we'll definitely think about. Very good shout, Callum.
Nice.
And what's the one more?
Feel heartburn coming on here. And
Glasgow FIFA asked how long until the new handball rule will get scrapped.
I think probably the end of the season, won't it? It's got to be. I don't think they can change it mid-season, so probably the end of the season.
I'm not sure. I give it a couple of weeks, to be honest. This pressure.
Do you think so? I just don't know. I feel like it comes to one of those situations.
I think actually now is a perfect time, whereas that you do it so then when you come back from international breaks.
True. Perhaps. So will they do it? Probably not.
Hope so, though. It's a bit scandalous.
I hope. And is that the 12 questions?
That's us ready to go. We'll get
our smuttering is over.
Our smuttering of Twitter questions is over. And we'll obviously record a preferred 11 video very soon for you all, which should be interesting. A good chance for you all to vote on which one you prefer, mine or Ryan's.
Will I win again?
I mean, you shouldn't have won last time. But back for it. I'll never forget that.
Aye, but sometimes it works, doesn't it? It confuses the other team. Oh, they're going to kick that.
Don't know which foot.
They're going to kick that away with their left. Oh, he's used his right, and it's went right to the opposition. They're through and goal. That's how it works.
We'll get a video up with that very soon, and we may or may not be live on Friday. Keep an eye on the socials to find out. We'll probably go live. Are Celtic and Rangers at the same time on Sunday? If they are, then we'll probably go live for that.
No, they shouldn't be. Because Celtic are 12 or half 12, and Rangers will be 3 o'clock probably. So. If they're at Ibrox, that is anyway. So it probably won't be, but that's been a good show nonetheless. So of course, keeping track with these socials. Go and follow at TSF Podcast 1 on Twitter, at Talk Scottish Football Podcast on Instagram.
Well, actually, I'm just going to interrupt you, Ryan, because I've changed them both to TSF Podcast 1 just to save confusion.
Have you now?
Well, it's probably you need to update graphics.
Yeah, you probably could have told me that a long time ago. Cheers. Thanks for dropping that on me as we currently record. Great.
Well, listen, we need you to learn the date for the graphics first and not still calling it August.
My head's still stuck in August, mate. It's mush. But going forward then, okay, at TSF Podcast 1 on both Instagram and Twitter. And soon, hopefully, big things coming. We've got a few things in the works, so we'll keep that quiet for now.
We've been saying this for about 2 months, but we're not lying anymore.
Yeah, but David might be moving to Hearts, so we've got to wait for that to go through. What?
I have no idea what you're talking about, mate.
Well, you know, they kept it quiet with Halliday going to Hearts and saying they had something big.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
You're going to Hearts. Right, if you have enjoyed, like and subscribe, it is much appreciated, and we'll see you all next time.